ones that you're sending. I think you've only sent me three.
Unmuted.
No, I just sent one.
Okay,
I'm looking at it.
I will call the May 28th, Recal Building Committee meeting to order.
Oh, you're back to that, then I won't do it.
I'll, start off by taking attendance. I don't have anything in front of me, but, John Coop. Here. Nancy Toomey,
Here.
Greg Stepler,
Here.
be online.
Yeah, he was.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
I'm here.
Kirk McCormick,
Here.
Ari Greenberg. Ari told me that he might not be able to make it, he's probably not there. Mike Mazzaro. Here. Nancy Zimlack,
Here.
Mark Doxer. Mark, not here, Pat Tompkins here. Didn't miss anyone, did I? Okay, just a couple things before we get started. Congratulations to everyone. So pretty big moment. So I'm gonna say congratulations and thank you to everyone that got us here, starting with our consultants. Joel and BH plus A, as well as Harry. All our committees, Mark and Recalc Committee, the original committee, Nancy and Council on Aging. Our town staff, Josh, Katie, Jane, Matt and Jenna, certainly last but not least, Jenna and her team. Everybody did a great job, and the PBC as well. Getting us to this point, pretty exciting. Pretty exciting to get through town meeting and a town vote. You know, it's for me, it's satisfying that that both town meeting and the town have you know, had the faith in us to move forward with this, and it's a bit of, you know, it's a big responsibility for us moving forward. But also, I'm excited. I think it's gonna be a fun building to build. Really, you know, we've got a lot of good community support. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And I know I'm very excited about moving forward. Before I move any further, I want to give Chuck and Peter the opportunity to introduce our new project manager, Mark.
I thank you all for, I echo what Pat said, congrats. We knew it was a tough road for you all, but you did a great job, and it's always great to see a project pass, especially when you have a town like yours that has to go through a town meeting and then a vote, which is always a challenge, as you well know. So we're excited to be here. Peter Collins, who most of you had met before, he was here during the interview. Peter's been in the background all along, as have I. And yes, we've had a change in our project manager. I'll introduce Mark Stafford, let him do a quick introduction to his background. And I think you'll find him highly qualified. Mark and I have worked together for more than a lot of years.
Don't say it.
Yeah, I said it out loud, but a lot of years. And it's probably as long as Peter and I have worked together. So it's a team that has some continuity and worked together and known each other. But Mark's experience, I'll let him speak to it as well. Introduce himself.
Good evening, everybody. It's great to be here. Mark Stafford. I'm a little bit of my background. I'm an architect by trade. I've been in the traditional architecture for over 20 years. I started my career at Tapia Associates and did all public work, schools, libraries, police and fire stations, couple of senior centers, projects of the like. So I was there for a little over 15 years. Actually, when I left, I was their director of municipal facilities before I moved on. After Tapia, I went to work for Shepley Bullfinch and did all private work. So I left the public realm and went to private work, and then did an interdisciplinary science building at Colgate University, a renovation of a dormitory at Amherst College, and got the opportunity to work on a 7-story tower, patient tower, and new operating rooms for Concord Hospital in Concord, New Hampshire. So that was quite an interesting situation. 08, 09 hit and was out of a job. First time in 25 plus years. architecture was decimated, as you all remember. I got an opportunity to take a position with National Grid. And National Grid at the time was promoting their new energy efficiency programs, which was the beginning of the Mass Save program. So at the time, working with NSTAR, who is now Eversource, we started to develop those plans for Mass Save. I, as an architect, they wanted to have somebody from the design community reach out to the design community and work with them on energy efficiency measures in their new construction. So I was the account executive for all new construction and major renovations. So I would go out and I would meet design teams and owners and try to convince them to put these measures into their building, and National Grid would give them a financial incentive to do so. So I did that for close to 10 years. It started out very slowly, but once it hit the ground running, it took off. And I started off as one single person. We had a team of 6 when we were done, covering Rhode Island, Massachusetts, upstate New York, and downstate New York, working on all new construction buildings going forward. So I'm well versed in all of those sustainability elements and the energy saving elements, energy efficiency elements for any kind of new construction project going forward. So when I was done with my tenure at National Grid, I get into the owner's project management world. Actually worked for Colliers at a fantastic project down at Bristol Agricultural High School in Dayton, Massachusetts. It was a technical vocational 24/7 working farm. And it was 6 buildings, 4 brand new, 2 renovated, 2 of them were timber frame buildings. Their student union and their robotic dairy barn was a timber frame building. We started that project. We had foundations in the beginning of steel when COVID hit, but luckily we were able to work through COVID. It was an interesting situation. I'm sure you all know that how to work through COVID like that. But we had a very successful project going forward with that, which was terrific. After Colliers, I went to work for SMMA very briefly at this new Stoneham High School. So the Net Zero Stoneham High School. So I was there for about a year. Over the time, I first met Chuck when I was doing projects in TAP 8 down at the town of Norwell. And then I ran into him again when we were doing energy work with the Acton Boxborough job he was working on. When I was working at SMMA with Stoneham High School, I saw the opportunity of him at Turner & Townsend and Erie. So I joined him at Turner & Townsend and Erie. So I've been with them for a couple of years now. I'm currently working on a elementary school, potentially new elementary school project up in Littleton, Mass. And I'm just looking so forward to helping you guys make this a successful project.
Thank you. Welcome. We're looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for those guys? Yeah, Mark.
Thanks. I apologize for being late. I went to town hall.
You were there 5 minutes earlier. You would have seen me. I could have given you a ride home.
I thought I saw your car there, so I was convinced you were there. And somebody walked out of the church and walked into that car. So either they were stealing it or I figured out which it was. My name's Mark Doxer. One of the things I had a chance to look at your resume, look at backgrounds and things.
Sure.
I don't see a lot of work in senior centers. I don't see a lot of work in centers for active living. So I guess a few questions. 1, have you done some of those projects? And if you could tell us about them. 2, if you haven't, have you made yourself familiar with other projects that are going on locally and what those are about? And I guess number 3, if you haven't done that either, when you commit to us that is one of the things that you'll get very comfortable with very quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I was at TAPE early on in my career, we did a couple of senior center projects there. I believe one was in Halifax and I forget where the other one was. But also at the time, a lot of the library projects we did had centers of aging in their libraries. So we used to work with those folks to make sure that whatever scope was needed for the project, we would get involved there as well. And those other projects I worked on were very small. They were renovations, interior renovations, a brand new from ground up senior center I have not done. But obviously well-versed in construction and design and understanding what needs to be done for building buildings. Understanding that the constituents and the people that are going to use this building, we have to make sure that, communication is open and we work with them and understand their needs as we work with the design team as well to pull that together. So I have made myself familiar with this project. I watched the pre-forum, community forum before the town vote. And I've looked at the plans and I've looked at some of the information there. Not so much familiar with other projects going on in the area. I saw those listed as part of the forum, but I certainly will make myself available to look at those and take a sense of what's going on. So I have a pretty good understanding of what the project's all about. There was the Dave cartooning video you guys did. We did the same thing, and there was a couple of projects we work on. Fantastic tool. It gets the information out there so everybody can understand it. So watch that. Plus, I said the forum to understand what was happening with the project to date. So yeah, that's my experience.
Okay, so I guess what I would ask is my third right there is that you spent some time digging into some other projects.
Sure.
Joel probably is one of the lead practitioners in this area, certainly. Good source of information.
Great.
I think my concern is just making sure that you folks are fully invested in what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I get it, it's a building,
Mm-hmm.
but what we're doing, you know, obviously Wes is very important.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Make sure that we're
No, clearly
all over.
it's more than a building. You know, it's for everything that I've seen so far and the passion that people have put into it and the vote and everything to this point is definitely something that we will maintain going forward.
Well, and then so in terms of background in project management, how many other projects have you been the project manager?
Probably about 6. Yeah, varying sizes. The Bristol Aggie was a massive project. That was a $200 million, 6 buildings, almost 400,000 square feet. I've done smaller ones like in Hawkinton, we did an addition to a existing school they just built 2 years ago. They had to expand it already because their population exploded. Any of the other projects that I've worked on, I was the project manager for SMMA for the high school in Stoneham. So the new Net Zero High School there. And so, yeah, so about 5 or 6 projects overall. I was the project manager for the companies I was working for with the client, with the designers on site, all part of it.
Right, and have you worked with Joel before?
I have not had the pleasure.
I don't know, not many people say that.
I'm gonna leave that one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? Okay, so just moving through the agenda. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Is there any public comment? Yes.
Hi, I'm Karen Shafke, Azalea Circle. I'm the chair of the Council on Aging. And I just want to, wonderful to meet you. We actually have 4 Council on Aging members here tonight.
Excellent.
And Joel, when we first met with the Council on Aging back a year ago, February, you encouraged us to think outside the box. And we hope that you will continue to think outside the box in meeting the needs of the community in Reading, because that is really important to us and it identified the need. The senior center is very much identified as a need in Reading. So we wanted to be a part of the process and we look forward to working with you.
I wish that there are a couple other people online from our office. It's just that it's a long trip in rush hour to get here, so they're doing it from the office. You met Dan, and the other one is also from the Newton Senior Center that's almost finished, and he's been on that for 3 years, so he's now coming on here with me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments or anyone online? Okay, move to the next agenda item, the approval of last month's meeting minutes. If everyone's had a chance to review those, and if there are any comments. Not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes. Question.
Is this a standard format?
Yes.
to use, and you
Every one of our
continuing to use that?
That's the standard on every one of our projects.
It's very good, it's very clear.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
manage our projects the same, no matter what size it is.
Yes.
It's just, listen, it's the way to make sure that the information is being presented in the most accurate way. 100%.
They're gonna continue taking the meeting minutes.
Yep.
And. Yeah.
Move to accept the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Any further discussion or comments? Take a roll call vote. John Coop,
Yes.
Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
Greg Stepler,
Yes.
Kirk McCormick,
Yes.
Mike Mazzaro,
Yes.
Nancy Zimlock,
Yes.
Mark Doxa,
Yes.
Pat Tompkins, yes. Motion passes. I didn't miss anyone, did I? Next item is the approval of invoices.
There actually are not.
Oh, okay.
Those were included, the ones of the invoices that were included in the packet were from your previous meeting. We attached them so that they were part of it.
Okay, yeah,
There are no invoices.
okay. So that was an easy one.
Let's do that one.
I know. Yeah, we like meetings where
Approve zero, but.
Invoices.
we incur no costs. We get a lot of work done and we incur no costs.
For the record, we have one last invoice for the previous work.
Okay,
And I believe all of Joel's invoices have been submitted and approved and paid.
okay, excellent, thank you. Next item is a budget review. Of, if you guys had an update on the budget.
I'm gonna let the two of them talk about it. You'll see it's a little different format than what was being presented to you. This is what you'll see as Peter will go through it, but we are big fans of details when it comes to finances. We want you to see everything. So therefore, this will show any bill that goes against those categories. And this, again, a standard form within our office. It's the way we've always done things. We don't typically produce the wheels and the graphs that you've seen in the past. We can if you want them, but it's not something we typically have done. It's not a standard format for us. But this is what we'll do. We'll also prepare cash flow analysis once we know what the bids are. So that'll help town hall project how best to spend the bonds when they go out to borrow the money. With that, I'll turn the budget over to Peter.
Yeah, hi, good evening, Peter Collins. So I put this together based on our office template. And Josh, if you don't mind, maybe you can scroll through. 1 second, please, to go back to the top. You'll see I put columns A, B, C, D across the top, the little letters. I put cost codes against it just as a category to track if somebody has a question. You can see a column B got a 100 or 200. It's a method. And this is open for discussion if people have different methods they like to see things. Totally open to editing this format if any committee members so chooses, which is fine. Nonetheless, I more or less took the budget line items that were listed in the original budget for the 27-9, put them in a spreadsheet format like this, put in the budget numbers that were allocated at the time, and these can be massaged a little bit as we go forward. For example, do we really need $5,000 for legal and recording? Maybe. If we don't, we can do a budget transfer, so to speak, if you like. And if you scroll down, you'll see I got some color codes. The 200s was the OPM line items that we put together for our fee proposal, which will probably be discussed this evening. The next category, Josh, if you don't mind, you go beyond that. The next row 70, architect and engineer. Thank you, Joel. We took some of your line items from your fee proposal and kind of allocated them to the appropriate phase of the scope. You'll see the various design phases, the bid phases. Keep going, Josh, thank you. He's got some other, not Joel does, BH+A has some other costs associated beyond their basic design fee services, as you'll see there on row 108, category 300, 700, those numbers. And then we go down to the next category, 400, other costs. I won't do them all, but if you don't mind, Josh, maybe just a slow scroll. Again, just inserted numbers based on what we know today. We can do adjustments and budget transfers, again, as you like. Keep going. And then the balance of the funds, I allocated to row 208, 800, which is contingency, owner's contingency. I put it in there, which is the number. Again, extracted that from the original budget sheet that was originally prepared and evaluated. And the other columns, budget number, the committed numbers in column E, column F is the balance of any uncommitted numbers, which therefore leaves a sort of surplus, if you will, that's available. If somebody wants to choose to transfer that to a different category, that's a discussion we can have with the committee. And then beyond the big black line is just the invoices that have been approved, and then the balance of the uncommitted monies. And you'll see it once you start populating it, it'll be very evident of the status, but I welcome any thoughts if people want to have a different idea of different methods or formats. So, but I thought I'd throw this out there as a placeholder to kick it off.
Yeah, I like it a lot more than the budget we were looking at before. And I think it gives a lot of detail that we can track. I imagine we're gonna be adding rows as we go.
Every invoice that this committee encumbers and pays for will be itemized and shown on the budget here by date, by who, and the amount. So it'll be 100% tracking throughout the life of the project.
And updated at every meeting.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I think that allows for a lot of transparency, which I think is great, and it provides a detail. It definitely is something that gets more. For me, I look at that, that's what I want to see as opposed to what we were looking at before, so I think it's great.
I think it's a pretty simplified form, but it's very detailed if you let it be, so.
It definitely works for me. Any other comments or questions?
To detail the $5,000 legal is that the town has to accept Range Road. And you have to deed out the conservation land from the buildable land so that it can be deeded to Concom. So the 5,000 is a placeholder for the town attorney. Wasn't sure who would be paying for that.
Exactly, right. Yeah, and I think there's some other numbers in the budget too that are, again, placeholders, like materials testing and inspectional services.
That's the budget.
Yeah, it's a budget number, and
Yeah.
we'll get quotes and get proposals, sign up a firm, and the balance can be held in retainage, not retainage, held in unused funds for that category if we go over, or transfer it down to a contingency line item.
I just wanted to mention that because on Tuesday at 2:00, there's a meeting with the town attorney and maybe one of your guys.
Absolutely.
And the town engineer. We have to sort of get this going because the road acceptance has to go to a town meeting vote
Sure.
somehow.
Absolutely, we'll be there. Yep.
I think John had a question.
I'm just questioning, what do these numbers represent? Do these just represent a record of what has been previously listed?
The dollar signs,
Or have you done any more critical thinking about the validity of these numbers?
I have not done any more critical thinking. I just basically extracted the dollar values from the previous budget that was presented to the committee as a.
You will be doing this.
Absolutely, yes, yes. That will be, this will be adjusted, everything but the bottom line, obviously, because we only have the 27.9, it's not gonna go up. And I think based on contractor discussions and signings for the OPM and the design firm, those will be fixed.
Committed funds, 2761. That represents what?
Yeah, if you, Josh, if you don't mind, maybe go up to the OPM and architects line items, you'll see in column E. Further up. Okay, so if you go down a little bit,
It's reflective of
down a little more,
the
excuse me, a
proposals so far for the contracts.
little more.
They've not been approved by you all yet. They
So-
will hopefully today,
Yeah.
but we took the leap and put them in there to show you how this would lay out.
That was my question, are these, let me go back to the time. This project started off patents. Normally, the OPM is hired.
Right.
And then the architect and so on. This job, we did patents, the architect started off and then you came in. Have we corrected that situation as going forward?
Yes.
In other words, your job, I've got town's interest. In other words, you're looking over Joe's shoulder all the time, saying, are these costs reasonable? Has that critical piece of thinking been done with regard to that, those committed funds? Are those committed funds just numbers without any critical analysis of whether they are the right numbers?
If I can interpret your question, correct me if I'm wrong, I never want to interpret what somebody's saying. Have we done a review of Joel's proposal
Yes, that's my
for the
question.
fees?
Yes.
Yes, we have. And the opportunity to send it to us a few days ago. We reviewed it, we've discussed it. I discussed it with Joel, Pat discussed it with Joel, and this reflects the latest and final proposal from Joel. He was able to work with us through this, and that's what they reflect. Yes.
Because our due diligence in the taxpayers now
Mhm.
is to make sure that what is being proposed.
Correct.
I'm not suggesting your fees and. But, we have to go through this process, I'm saying, but your proposed fees have been critically looked at by the OPM, whose job it is to critically look at those things, and they have been there as being fair and reasonable and consistent with, the industry standards and that kind of stuff. So for us to do our due diligence for the benefit of taxpayers, I have to ask you that question.
We will do that on every contract or proposal that is presented to you as part of this project. Every single one.
Okay.
And the same went through with us in our contract amendment and discussed with Pat and
Yes,
Jane and everybody as well, just so
Obviously,
those numbers
you
are
can't-
reflected right now. Yeah.
So we put this in there by taking a leap. We stepped over a couple of steps, but to show you what it would look like once you do it. If you should solve it.
So as a little background on that, John. TTH, I asked them to look at BH plus A's proposal, and I asked BH plus A to look at TTH's proposal. So, and I went through them, they're both lump sum proposals,
I don't think so. You have to.
The-
Yours is
they're both lump sum amendments.
I thought yours was a time and material rather than upset.
No, our first proposal, our first phase was a lump sum proposal, and this is a lump sum proposal as well.
What I read. You have a schedule for labor rates.
Those labor rates were requested when the RFP came out. And when the first phase, they were requested, should there be additional services required? The towns, and we appreciate when they ask, always ask for what our labor rates would be. We were pleased to be able to honor our labor rates from the original proposal, not only for this, but for the life of the project. I will not be upping my rates as we go through the life of the project.
That's not what I read in the first. Maybe I misread it.
And what Peter's showing, Josh, if you could scroll down just a little bit to our, the other way, I'm sorry, up. My ups and downs are always wrong. You'll see that Peter has included the breakout for each phase. So you'll understand how much is being spent from our fee for each phase. Design development phase, construction, document phase, bidding,
John, if you don't mind, on row 68 in the gray there, you'll see a number, $845,857. That's a lump sum fee that we submitted as a proposal for the OPM services for the life of the project, broken down in those various phases as shown. And the same thing occurs if you, again, we can go down to the next line of category, which is the designer's breakout of their lump sum scope of services by phase and by category of work. Also, shown.
That's not how I look at it. Maybe I said, I may have misread. I thought you were on a kind of a time and material see.
We follow a typical MSBA style municipal project. MSBA projects are time and material, are lump sums as well. We've operated all our municipal projects that way. I have to be honest with you, we have very few projects in our portfolio now where in the past 10 years are time and material contracts. I can assure you that even our GSA contracts for our border patrol station
What I'm
work
looking at
are all
is-
lump sums.
is Article 5,
Yeah.
Section 5.1. Which is compensation. And it says for the satisfactory performance of all services required pursuant to this agreement, excluding those services specified under Article 7 and 8. The owner's project manager shall be compensated by the owner in an amount up to and not to exceed fee for basic services identified in attachment A. The owner's project manager shall the invoice on a monthly basis with payment schedule. That's just me, that if you're on a hourly fee, will not exceed, you're not saying.
Candidly, we read it the other way, saying that is a not to exceed figure, that's a lump sum figure. We will not exceed that figure, no matter what happens in the project.
Supposing you don't spend that amount of money.
We will spend. As a matter of fact, I have done a cost analysis and realized that the amount of money that was allocated in your budget, that number is considerably less than the money that was allocated in your budget after I did a breakdown.
When you submit invoices, will you identify hours and costs, or will you simply say, this month it's so much? In other words, is there a tracking of actual expenditures?
What we do is we break down the breakdown of each one of these phases as and we divide those over the period of time. And we give you a billing schedule. This is what you can expect, just like we did in the previous phase. That was based on a billing schedule. We took the $94,500. We divided it by a number of months, changed the figures based depending on the level of effort during those months for the tasks that were included for that month. And we will break down this the same way. Then you'll see a billing schedule based on that.
That's just not what I expected. I thought for the work you've done so far, you were on an hourly basis.
Yeah, I thought that when I went into the process as well, John, but that wasn't the case, I think, for the initial phase. And that was the lump sum was the agreement that we discussed. From when I compared the fees for both PTH and BH plus A, the best I could to market rates, whether I break it down to by a percentage of construction costs, or which can be misleading, or break it down to a cost per square foot. I found that that every way I looked at it, I found that the rates were the amounts were competitive, particularly when compared with other public projects in the local region at the same time in the same marketplace. But we're here to discuss. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, actually. So I think I'm very comfortable with the budget format that you put out. Mark, that's something?
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful to include a column on progress to budget. So we can measure that, if it's simple as percentage going through, so we can just monitor by category what's going on, and then obviously by main 100 number, see that as well as how much we appreciate that it's expenditure. Sure. But I think it would be like very easy to.
Yep.
Second question is, how you're treating the contingencies, the various contingencies. So, so I saw the last one, obviously, so there's contingency there. I saw a change order contingency that's kind of built in. You scroll through a little bit quickly, sorry, I didn't have a chance to go in detail, but how is it set up for materials? Material variance, the cost variance in materials. The budget, we set aside a contingency for that. I may just read it. Seeing through it.
Again, John, on the budget, that format that was prepared earlier, the other single sheet,
Yep.
I basically took those numbers and placed them into this format.
So you got 4 contingencies. 4 different categories.
Well, we have the construction cost. I know there's construction costs and there's design contingencies.
Okay.
And that's all built into that number there. And then there's owner's contingency. So the construction cost, Josh, if you don't mind, right there, row 152.
So the 500.
That 21,947,000 has the numbers baked into that one. I didn't break out the design contingencies in that category, because that's considered construction cost at this point in time. As the project gets further into the design development phase, we will be showing those breakouts of the cost estimates, the general conditions, the general requirements, the overhead profit, and the design contingencies. And as the design continues, the design contingency will evaporate and go into the construction costs.
That's exactly what I would like to see,
Yes.
just to watch that happen as little as possible, to watch that happen.
Yes, that'll all be documented. You'll see it as the job progresses and the cost estimates come in. You'll see it from Joel's, the designer's cost estimate team as well. So
Both our firms, under our contracts, owe you estimates at various stages through the design process as checks against your budget. There are going to be times when there may be times that certain committee members would like to add things to the project. We will look at those and say, that's not within your budget. We're glad to entertain it for you, but it's not in your budget. You know, I laugh, I tell people all the time, our job is to look at your budget at all times, and anytime somebody starts to give a scope creep, you'll find us being the one going, no.
Oh, John.
I hope so. I used to work for a firm one time that, back in the early days, that invented these buttons that said, it was the red circle with a line through it, said no change orders. As soon as we saw those buttons, I threw them all in the trash. Because I don't care what anybody says, it's almost an impossible task. We strive our best, but we will be the ones. The estimates, as I was talking about, we review those at every step of the way with Joel and his team to look for where are the efficiencies in the estimates and the budgets to make sure we're on track at all steps. That's our number one task, is to watch that budget.
Peter, regarding the two contingencies that are in this budget.
yes,
Line items, the one, would it be fair to say the construction change orders and contingency on line 158
yes.
kinda is there to get us through design. And then the owner's contingency on 208 is sort of from the construction bid through construction. Is that?
Yeah, the way I look at, again, those two line items that are shown on the screen there, whoops, they were there, excuse me.
Right there.
Under construction, so row 152, general contractor's base bid. That's a compilation of the numbers that I extracted from the original budget that was,
Which is the estimate.
which was the cost estimate, which includes the design contingencies and things like that. Also within that line, that budget that was prepared, there was a line item called construction contingency. So that's where that number came from. So if you wanted to look at those two numbers and put them together, which we do have there at $23,045,000, you can say right now, that's what's allocated at this moment in time, again, just allocated for the cost of construction potentially, not to, you know, the estimated cost for the bricks and the sticks and all that work, the general conditions, the contractors, and then the potential change orders that may come down the road. Again, that $1 million, $1,097,000, strictly construction costs. If you go to the end of the budget, the very end,
Let me stop 1 second. We're baked into that construction number, not the contingency number, but the construction number based into that. That number is based on the estimates as we talk, and into that number is the amount of percentage for the design contingency. Because
Right.
they're not quite far enough along yet. Nobody knows quite yet. So to your point, it's not the construction contingency line that goes away during the design phase. It's what you don't see within the 21 million, which we will break out and show you. So that, as Mark said, as you go through the process, you'll see that number shrink as it gets absorbed, and we'll go from there.
if it's helpful, I can, you know, unbake the number that's in there and show it by line item from the original budget that you guys probably saw before. It's just showing it.
I don't think we need to do that. I mean, I'm fine either way, but I don't
I think
think.
you'll see it in the estimates. When we present the estimates at each step, I think you'll see it.
Yeah.
And then be glad to highlight them.
And then the owner's contingency is costs that the owner of this building committee or the may encumber outside construction costs. If suddenly you want to buy more furniture, you want to buy additional computers
Or
or
if,
Unforeseen.
unforeseen conditions, God forbid, I mean, things like that. You're protected, your budget is protected by having that number. We always laugh and say at the end of the job, our job is to reach out and say, we didn't spend all of that. Guess what? You don't have to bond that amount of money. And therefore your project comes achieved. That's our goal.
Are you guys advocates with the town CFO to make sure she is obviously involved in the team at different points, during her deciding?
We absolutely will. That's the next step. Once contracts are approved, we then start to lay them out based on a, like I said before, like a spend down, for lack of a number, in the banking industry for development, they do a spend down analysis so that, and private investors know how much they have to borrow with each time. We do the same thing for municipal projects.
And we want to clarify the process to make sure that invoices come in, when they need to come in, when they need to be approved by, that need to be reflected in the budget, all those things need to be, we want to make it crystal clear with everybody what the process is going forward.
We do a very detailed cash flow analysis. We go through them and we update it every month.
Could I ask you to expand a little bit on item 8.3? You've got it there.
I have it on my phone, yes.
Right.
I have it, I understand it. Okay,
No, I'm not quite sure.
There is.
I'm not,
Yeah,
it's not crystal clear as to what it means, in my view.
what this says is if we incur additional costs, if you ask us to incur additional cost above and beyond our contract, you want us to bring in another consultant for another reason. Let's say, for instance, in this contract, commissioning is not included, commissioning of the building. But it's a line item within your budget. It's not in our contract. If you say to us, hey, listen, we know you're commissioning, we're a commissioning firm as well. Would you do the commissioning on this building? We said, yes, we could. What that allows us to do is that allows us to mark up additional services or additional contracts, 10% to cover our administrative fees. I can't, other than our government work now for the federal government, I can't remember the last time I did that. I'm not saying I won't, but I just say, I don't know when I have ever tacked on 10% to a sub-consultant for whatever reason. It's just, it's there in case something dramatic or something big happens, and you ask us to reach in and bring in another consultant for some reason. It allows us to pay our administration costs for administering that contract and handling their invoices.
But for an ordinary change order on
No,
the job.
no.
You're not expecting to get paid 10%.
We do not.
Value of the change order.
We have no contractual value as it relates to change orders by the construction contract.
No.
None.
Okay.
We're independent as could all be.
The wording of that is kind of, you could read it, you know.
Specific services relates to our services, not contractors. The word specific services in that phrase relates to our work and our task and our services.
So this is.
Yeah, John, this is section 8.1.1.1 is under the reimbursable section. So it refers specifically to the sub-consultants. The basic services are in 6, and that's going to be your change order administration and everything else.
100% correct, whoever the voice from above. was.
Voice from above, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, that's Kirk, sorry.
I've always respected the voice from above. And
Exactly.
this one I really, really do. So thank you, sir.
Okay,
You good, John? You got another one?
no, I don't have another one. I'm just a little bit.
We've had instance, we'll use an example, on Peter's last project in the town of Tewksbury. The town came to us and said, could you solicit and either hire or at least manage the services of a moving consultant for a school? Move management consulting for a school is very costly. It's a lot of equipment. Bring in all those tables and all those chairs and all those desks, and there's a lot of involvement. We said, sure, if we go do that and bring it under contract, we will be allowed to, if we so wish, mark up that contract for the administration of that contract. And talking with the town, it didn't fall under our contract. We solicited the services and put it out there. And the town contracted directly with a move management firm. So we didn't implement that 10%. That's only if we bring in a consultant under our contract or something above and beyond our services.
John, one of the ways to look at this from my perspective, if, using the commissioning, if we said we wanted to add a commissioning agent, well, a lump sum proposal of $50,000. And we wanted TTH to manage that for us. I said, okay, contract says we get 10%, so it's $55,000. We have the option to go contract with that entity ourselves. If we choose to go through them, there's a markup. I mean, the basics of the terms and conditions of this were generally in their original contract. It's been modified. Because the scope didn't include the scope beyond schematic design, so it's been modified significantly. But you know, we always have the opportunity to say, we don't want to do that.
But we will still solicit those firms, like we were talking about before the project started, when we would reach out to your previous firm to get a peer review. We solicited those. We didn't mark up our services for doing that's part of our services. Yes.
Yeah.
No, we didn't.
If you manage those firms, you get 10%.
If it's under contract for us. Within our contract, to increase our contract amount by that much. I'll go back to the commissioning. If you say to us, you absolutely, and we will encourage you to hire a commissioning agent as the project is being built and materials are being, mechanical equipment, electrical equipment, plumbing equipment is all being installed to make sure that things are working the way that Joel's designed them to do and they meet. There's a third party called a commissioning agent. Because we offer that within the company we work for, we would not have the opportunity to mark that services up as a commissioning agent. It's just part of our work. You would pay us for that additional service, but we're not gonna mark it up. That's just the way it works.
I had a couple comments or questions first. You could, Peter, if you could send me that budget in an Excel format.
Sure.
If I could do some back checking myself between, I currently have two budgets.
Yes.
That come to the same number, and this will be a third.
And I'm gonna,
So I'm gonna make sure they all
We reviewed that.
reconcile. That's no disparagement on you guys.
No, I understand.
My OCD. I know.
when I send it, I'm gonna unbake the number that we talked about earlier on the contingencies and things like that. I'll just show every line item that you saw a couple months ago.
That'd be great.
So you see every click.
Yes.
The last thing for me on budget is a first task. If you can look at the project as a whole and think about all the things that you know about, since you do this over and over for a living and we don't, we're embarking on a somewhat new process. And think about all the things that we need, both from a cost standpoint that may or may not be in the budget, like move management and commissioning, and kind of help us with this is where it's in the budget. And also where there might be money in the budget for commissioning, but that's also want to know where we need sort of town resources, right? So there's commissioning in the budget, there's a value for that, but it's not currently contracted with either of you two to manage it. So under the current scenario, town needs to provide resources to manage that. So kind of a thorough, like, this is everything you need, you're gonna need beyond you. Everyone thinks it's just the bid, right, Joel? The bid price of 20 million for this building. Everyone forgets about your time and fees and the OPM fees and the FF&E and all that. But there's a lot of
Cost
stuff.
versus the soft cost.
Yeah, all those, the sort of miscellaneous soft cost items, and not only things that we might have to think about as a town that aren't in the budget, but things that are in the budget that we might have to think about providing resources to manage. And, we're coming up to speed on, very quickly on two projects, which town staff has been outstanding, haven't missed a beat. It's been very impressive to watch everyone just absorb all the work that goes into these two projects in addition to their day jobs, so. But, you know, to the extent you can do that, I think that would be, very helpful to us.
And you had sent us an email with a list that you started yourself that we'll expand upon as well.
Yeah.
You mentioned at one point, so there's a few things we'll be adding to that.
And that's part of the work, Pat, you and I talked about, and Peter and I talked a little bit today, we're in the office together, is we're going to, the three of us are gonna get together and do a risk analysis study. We're gonna look at the project as a whole. That ties into what you're just asking. We'll look at the project as a whole and say, what are some of the unknowns and some of the risks? We have to spend more time with Joel to understand that one better, and we will right away. And he'll help identify for us those risks and how we're managing them. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And along the same vein of the budget is the schedule. And we sent you a copy of the draft schedule. This schedule is going to be modified as we sit down with Joe and talk more about, as every phase comes on, the duration of the phase, what exactly is happening there. We're going to take this drafted one that, this is a portion of the schedule I think you've seen before. We're going to change a lot of this. We're going to clean it up. We're going to make it a little more efficient in its items, and we're not going to write down every single time someone calls a phone call or puts like. So we're hoping to condense it, but make it also very clear on everything that needs to be addressed. You know, duration, start date, end dates, you know, for the balance of the project for every phase till close out.
With your permission, and I ask that sincerely. We typically don't do schedules that include the dates of every meeting that occurs as part of the project. We produce a milestone schedule that outlines the steps that go through. We like to keep a separate sheet of list of meetings. The reason is we like to see on the schedule, the work that has to be done between the two firms, and then when the contractors get involved, we're gonna plug into these when ConsCon meetings are, because they're infinitely important. We're gonna plug in when building committee meetings are. We're gonna plug in those kind of things to this schedule, so that it becomes a schedule reflective of how the building is going to be designed and built. We will keep a separate list of meetings as they occur for, if you have communication subcommittees, if you have financial subcommittees, which we encourage, we think those are great ideas. If you do other subcommittees along that line, design review subcommittees, which are infinitely important.
Sustainable subcommittee.
Those should be, we don't like to typically clutter up a working schedule for that. If you like this format, we'll keep it going. We may break the meetings out into a little separate schedule on another separate piece. We just want this to be reflective of how we typically see our project running through. No, I'm not casting aspersions on how it was done. We just think that a simple format, let us take a shot at it. We'll review it with you, pass it around, and you say, oh, I like this, or no, I don't like this. I like the old format. So.
And as the budget, every meeting, we will update the schedule as well and let you know if there's any slippage, any creep anywhere, and how we gotta get back on it. If there's a critical path or whatever, we'll make sure all that information is reflected.
I'm not opposed to that. I agree. One of the things I'd like to see, is when we're heading into something where we as a committee need to make a decision.
100%.
You know,
Absolutely.
we wanna see that highlighted, you know, we wanna see that jumping out at us. And we wanna see it in advance, so we all know we're heading into, look, you gotta make, we're gonna get this information in June. We're gonna have a meeting at the end of July. And at that meeting, we're gonna have to, you know, make this big decision.
We want to always give you a minimum of 5 days notice when you have decisions to make that are coming up, and get you the information. So that you have the ability to review it prior to the meeting, sit, discuss it, and be able to make the decision. That goes especially for anything to do with financial and invoices. You're not going to get invoices from us the day before a meeting or the day of a meeting. You're going to get them a week in advance. So you have the opportunity to review them and understand what they're for.
Appreciate that.
I chair my own building committee, or did for a long time, and I would reject invoices that were brought to me the day of the meeting. I say, nope, don't have the time to review it, put it on the shelf. You may have to wait a month now. So we don't do it that way.
And we'll speak to Jane.
Can we record that?
We won't do it that way. We just won't. That's why I have an invoice in my inbox right now from my accountant that says you're due for the invoice for them to approve it. I said, the meeting's tonight. I'm not bringing it to them. I'll bring it to them at the next meeting. It's just the way that we work.
And as we spoke to Jan, and as we mentioned earlier too, we want to make it crystal clear what the process is, and everybody's going to be on board. the invoices go in this date, they get approved at this date, so we don't want to vary from that. But also everybody understands as the project goes on. You know, right now you're dealing with two entities. When you get into a construction contract, you're gonna be dealing with a lot more people, invoices and all that. We want to make sure that everybody buys in from the very beginning what the process is.
Yep, appreciate that. Okay. Do we have any other questions or comments, Nancy, on budget? That's good.
Yeah, well, you were talking about a separate list for meetings
Mhm.
and not having it in here. But is there a tie back to that list of meetings and where it fits in
Yes,
here?
yes.
So,
It'll be a
Okay.
calendar format of meetings that are coming up.
okay.
Instead of it being in we call this a schedule for managing projects. That list of meetings coming up, we'll do our best to project 3 months out and send you a calendar format. Calendar format, looking as if old days like me, I still keep a flat calendar on my desk. You're gonna have in there June 7th, there's a meeting, June 19th, there's a meeting, and it'll show it that way. So you're prepared to see
And-
for it.
And there's a bridge between
Yes,
what that meeting is and
Yes.
how it relates to what's going to be.
100%.
Right, so this is what you're seeing here,
It's 7.
what you're seeing here is a milestone schedule is the 10,000-foot level. Right, of all the really important dates that need to be met for each phase and all important meetings, et cetera. Within each one of those breakdowns, you can put another series of line items that'll get the detail that you're looking for, and they're definitely tied together.
Okay.
But we're not gonna come in with a 35-page schedule and say to you, okay, here it is, we're gonna be here for 3 hours going over we'll have
It's
an
hard to-
overview.
It's hard to work.
No,
Yeah.
I was just wondering where
Sure.
one could see the relationship.
Absolutely.
That raises the issue, how frequently should we be meeting?
That's on your, no, it's on your agenda.
Okay.
Good.
And the other one is,
Yes.
we have an aggressive schedule, we have to freeze the design pretty damn quick. Well. And no changes.
Okay. Do we want to tackle that subject?
Okay,
All right, we won't tackle that subject yet. I'm with you though. I'm in you and we're in lockstep.
we are too.
So agenda item budget review, I think we're good. We're moving on to the contract amendments of BH+A and TTH. Before we jump into that, I did want to mention that I talked to Jane and Matt. Jane, Matt and I have been working with, both TTH and BH+A on the amendments. Matt just sent me an email that said, please report to the committee that I've reviewed the contract amendments and in favor of adoption. My apologies for not being able to attend. They had, what do they have?
Chief Burns.
Oh, Chief Burns dinner. Okay, so, we want to probably take these one at a time. Sure, we'll do TTH first. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the amendment? Mark?
I'm assuming that most of this in terms of responsibilities is boilerplate, it's pretty, it's basic. We didn't change it completely for us. It's a general structure for Century.
That's correct.
Okay, so in today's day and age, our general liability limits of 1 million, 3 million still appropriate? Seems like that's really low.
He does these comments.
Maybe the voice from above can weigh in?
Yes.
That'd be you, Kirk.
Hello.
Kirk, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I didn't quite hear Mark's comment though, about the GL limits.
Yes.
I've certainly seen higher. I guess my concern when it comes to GL is really it's something that I'm more interested in making sure the contractor and the subs have adequate coverage, just because I see it more of an exposure with the people who are actually doing the work. So I don't have a principled objection to 1 and 3. I would like to see them higher. I'd like to hear TT and H's comments on that.
1 and 3 is standard for municipal projects in Massachusetts right now. 1 and 3 was what was in the original contract, and we provided the insurance based on that. This contract was reviewed recently by our in-house counsel. He asked that question, would any of the insurances be increased? I said, no, the contract that was presented to us by the town is this one listed as the 1 and 3, and the other insurance limits in it. So we priced accordingly based on the contract that was presented to us by the county. This is your contract. We did not write this, and we didn't modify it. So this came from your in-house advisors, and we did not have any objections to it as we went forward. There were some things we would have liked to see changed, but we also realized that at the time that we submitted our proposal at the beginning of this, in the previous phase, it said, you need to accept this contract as it's written with no changes, and we went, absolutely.
So to Kirk's point then, as it relates to construction and stuff. Here is the state of this item.
That's, hasn't been done yet. It's part of the development of the contract, that documents and bid that documents. Working with Joel, working with the insurance advisors, and working with your legal counsel. That's part of the next step that we do as we're developing the bid documents. And yes, there will be, my guess is those limits will be increased as it gets into the general contractors and subcontractors. So there are also a lot of Massachusetts statutes, the limits of liability statutes outlined by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 149 for general contractors and 149A for construction managers with this, which this is not a construction management project. It's a general contract. Bid bill.
It seems that as, I bet those are the same limits.
They've changed actually a little bit, not much. Not
Not as much as cost center.
I have agreed with that.
So is it possible, Josh, just to bring back to a question for Jane and Matt going forward as it relates to contracts that are going to be written with priorities?
We will look at it.
Subs to-
Yep.
Thanks, Westboro.
There's also, so the general liability is one,
Oh, no, Jill's 1-3.
1-3, and then there's a $2 million professional liability.
Yep.
And a $2 million umbrella. So the $2 million umbrella would sit over the top of the GL.
Because of the size of our firm, we're a 28,000 person firm. We are essentially self-insured with an underwriter, and a carrier that oversees what we do.
Well, yeah, so this is Kirk from above again. That was another thing that I was going to mention is that the even if the insurance isn't sufficient, there's enough financial backing. I mean, because the insurance is only really needed if the company that is liable for the malfeasance or the errors or omissions or whatever it is doesn't have the funds to satisfy a judgment you ultimately get. And I think in this case, we've got ample financial backing.
Again, I'm coming to really love the voice from above. That's exactly what I was gonna say. One of the questions Jane and Matt asked us was to provide our latest financial statements. We are Turner and Townsend Erie, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Turner and Townsend, which is an LLC, a limited liability corporation based in New York and based in London. It's a partnership driven. 60% of the partners are the CBRE Corporation, the world's largest real estate company. So we have not only the backing of Turner and Townsend LLC, we also have the backing of CBRE, which is again, the world's largest real estate company. So the financial support that we get even at our level is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, and I guess just to follow up, I haven't seen those financials, but I would just want to make sure that the LLC that we're actually signing the contract with has ample financial reserves, because I'm assuming that CBRE is insulated itself to some degree from the liability of its subsidiaries and other affiliated entities. So I would be interested in seeing the financials for TT&H as the company that we're actually contracted with.
Where do we send it?
It's not there. No,
Go to the bottom.
It's
To the cloud.
to the cloud. Yes, to the cloud, of course.
Kirk, I think you can reach out to Jane and Matt on that to make sure that I is dotted and T is crossed. we
Yeah, and
appreciate
just,
that.
yeah, and just as a bigger picture matter, I think the liability limits are fine, but just to the point of the added security, then yes, I'll reach out to Jane and just see what we've got on that.
Does anyone else have any questions? Nancy Z?
I have, because this is all, I mean, I don't know about contracts and all these things, so I probably have a very elementary question, but there were two amendments, right? Amendment 1 and amendment 2, were there two or just one?
This is two amendments, one for TTH and another
Okay,
amendment for BH plus A.
Okay, so,
One of them was much shorter than the other.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so my question is, do you have the amendments? Obviously, there are changes. We have a new OPM. And there are things that are different, need to be written up. But I'm just wondering, and as part of these amendments, was there anything major that was included in these amendments that were not part of the original contract early on? The original contract, so I'm just curious why there would be amendments other than your. Tell me why.
Yeah, so I think, I know what you're getting at, so there's two amendments included in the package, one is for Turner Townsend, Erie, one's for BH plus A. The one for BH plus A is pretty much like a 2-page, we're just changing the valve. BH plus A's original contract laid out the scope of services all the way through complete design. But it had a value only for the through schematic design. TTH's contract was similar, except that the scope portions beyond schematic design were struck from the contract. So with BH plus A, the scope is in place, contemplated for the full project. We merely need to increase the value. TTH, we need to increase the value and modify the contract to include scope.
Okay.
And it's the same basic form of contract that Fidel executed, right? That Fidel executed last year, and it's just the sections that were crossed out are now. Does that make sense? Agree with us. Could be a bit figured out.
Thank you. You ready?
Nancy, you wanna go for a motion?
Make a motion to approve amendment number 1 for Turner Townsend Hury LLC for the amount of $940,357. No,
No.
$845,857.
We'll take the 9.
Yeah, right. That included the 945. Gotcha. 845, 857, and to recommend Matt signs the contract. Is that right?
Yeah, can we,
We want to do that.
yeah, maybe add, we recommend that Matt execute the contract. And since Matt's the chief procurement agent, maybe add something that he has a final,
Final.
any modifications to terms and conditions that he or town council deem necessary.
Sounds good.
Someone get
Got
that?
that?
I'll second it.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. John Coop,
Yes.
Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
Kirk McCormick,
Yes.
Greg Stepler,
Yes.
Mark Doxer,
Yes.
Nancy Zimlak,
Yeah.
Pat Tompkins, yes. I didn't miss anyone? Called Mike in before and he technically didn't have a vote. All right, we'll get it right sometime. Thank you. Motion passes. Next up, BH plus A. and you just got the explanation on why BH plus A's amendment is shorter.
Could I just have a question, Joe? That's, you had a list of subcontractors, sub-consultants, structural and MEP. Any changes between previous and now? Have you changed any personnel, any firms or anything like that?
Yeah, the town asked us to switch to Activitas for civil and landscape because of the pickleball arrangement. And we made that substitution. Right?
There's nothing about, no. And is there a schedule of, you come up with a lump sum number, but that must have been generated with input from your sub-consultants, line items, so much for MEP, so much for acoustics and infrastructure. Are those figures not about the breakdowns?
It's, the breakdown of those is not part of any of the municipal contracts we work on. It's also
Are they available
lump
to
sum.
the DTH monitor your subs?
It's never happened before. They monitor the work that's done on a monthly basis against the amount for that particular phase, but they don't monitor against the contract for the structural engineer.
That's right.
I did not ask that question of BH plus A, but I did ask that question of another architect that is currently under contract with the town of Reading. And I got a big box of no and a hard stiff arm from them. I did not ask Joel. He would have given me a kinder stiff arm.
I mean, one is we owe you the project at a certain number, so it's our job to deliver that project. Two is the billing doesn't always work as cleanly as the project, so we may get to construction drawings and the invoice from the structural engineer isn't in there yet. We still want to bill you because we finished the 100% construction drawings, because it takes another 30 to 60 days to get that check approved and paid and deposited, so. It's an lump sum fee, which all municipal contracts are. You basically go as proportion of the work that's done.
Okay, and I've just been in situations where the architect gets paid, but he doesn't pay subs, and you have no,
That,
have anybody been there before?
I've never had that happen with
Never
a
had that
subcontractor. I've never had a subcontractor not pay their supply.
And
Stick me with the bill.
you have no, if you don't know how much the sub is owed, and he's complaining to you that I haven't been paid, you kind of ask. Okay, if you don't think that's our business to inquire how much you're going to pay the structural engineer, that's fine.
Does anyone else have any other comments or questions? No, go for it, Nancy.
I'll try again, and I
Again.
want to make sure I get them out right. Motion to approve amendment number 1 for, what is it? 1,832,000. I don't include the reimbursables.
I think so.
you should.
Yeah.
Okay, 1,832,000 for basic services and 84,000 for reimbursable expenses for BH plus A. And recommend that Matt Nellis signs it after looking at everything, whatever was in the last one is good.
Execute the contract with the ability to modify general terms and conditions as he sees appropriate or town council. Any other discussion? Vote, John Coot,
Yes.
Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
Kirk McCormick,
Yes.
Greg Stempler,
Yes.
Mark Doxa,
Yes.
Nancy Zimlak,
Yes.
Pat Tompkins, yes. Motion passes. Congratulations. we're truly looking forward to working with both of you. Going through the process, I mentioned having two budgets and reconciling budgets. There was a little bit of a process to go through with the fees and to make sure everybody understood. Exactly what the fees were. I'm happy to say that the combined fees are under the budget of what the budget that we established. So we've not very much, but we've inked a little money into contingency. But working with both TTH and BH Plus A, particularly Chuck and Joel, I have to say, I really felt like they're on our team. More so than, obviously they have been, but obviously they're for-profit organizations that they do this work to make a profit, to make a living, et cetera. But I really got the sense that they were ready to roll up their sleeves. And when there's a problem, and there is gonna be a problem on this job between here and there, I feel very comfortable that the partners, where our partners on this project are gonna be there with the attitude like, all right, we gotta solve the problem. And if solving the problem means that we all gotta kick in a little and find a way to fix this, I really get the sense that we have those type of teammates. So I'm really happy you guys are on board. Like I said, I'm excited about this project. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun to build. Look forward to moving on. All right. So with that, move on to the next item. We don't know, Josh doesn't, we're gonna skip the secretary note there. Not 100% sure why that's on the agenda. I tried to find out this afternoon. The next item, if we can just talk a little bit about setting future meeting agenda. Trying to juggle this with the Killam building. And we've talking through with Carla and Jane and the Killam team. They're targeting. What are they targeting?
Yeah.
The first
Monday is gonna be the XLT meetings, and the second Monday will be the committee meetings.
Monday. So we were targeting the first Wednesday of the month for the recal meetings. If that in general works for people. If anyone has any objection.
Are you suggesting just once a month we meet? Is that enough in the initial stages?
You may have subcommittee meetings.
Right.
Between your permanent building committee meetings, that actually you will probably. We know that your design and your constituents meeting, for lack of a better term, is part of the design group. Those will meet with Joel's input on when those should be, when he needs direction or answers. But no, as a permanent building committee, we agree that they should be monthly.
Okay.
And then have your subcommittees, whoever they are, report back to you with our input as to where we're going, what we're doing.
Josh?
Just from our internal discussions, I believe what we were talking about was the second Wednesday of each month would be the permanent building committee. Just so we don't have the first week being Killam Monday and then Wednesday night.
I thought Killam was the second Monday.
It's coming up on Monday the 2nd.
So, sorry, Killam will be goodness gracious, I'm so sorry, trying to think. So I just scheduled it today. The first Monday will be our XLT meetings. We assign the agenda. Second Monday will be our committee meetings. So then if we were to do,
First Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I have a conflict the second Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
Another board.
we can do first.
Which I wouldn't mind not going to, don't get me wrong.
So the next meeting for this group is next Wednesday.
Yeah, that's not what the next meeting is.
We're just following your schedule.
Yeah.
We agree with you, but we're just following your schedule.
The next meeting would be July 2nd in my mind.
Right.
But as you go through the summer, there are vacations built in for people and things like that. I can assure you, one, if not, all of us will be at meetings, any meeting you have. It's just, as I explained to everybody as part of when we did this, Peter, Mark and I, Peter hates this expression, but I'm gonna say it anyhow, we live by a bus theory. which means whatever any one of us know, we all know. So there will not be a learning curve as we get moving into where were we with this Mark and where were we with this Peter? We're all gonna know what's going on. So in the case of the 1st of July, I know that one of us has a vacation scheduled. We will have it covered. One of us will be here, if not two of us.
You can change that phrase to, one of you hits the lottery.
That's what I was just gonna say. I
No.
prefer that. It's a much better.
I'm such a glutton, I'll probably keep working, but that's okay.
So we can put together a meeting schedule, at least through
One
the
second.
end of the year for the first Wednesday, circulated to everyone. One question I have is where we stand today. Are you, it's mostly directed to you, Joel, are you good, or do you think you need to meet with us for some decisions and discussion for July 2nd?
Yeah, I was just gonna get to that. The complexity of the project is that we have two entitlements, Conservation Commission and Planning Board, CPDC. And CPDC only meets once a month. And to get in, you're gonna need at least 2, if not 3 meetings with them. You'll do an introductory meeting and then they'll make a decision and inevitably they write up conditions at the 3rd meeting. So that process, if to get into the August 11th planning meeting, we have to have the site drawings ready by the 7th of July. So we could present them to you on the 2nd of July if we met on that first Monday, but that's sort of a cog in the works at the moment. But the issue is that the process just takes so long, that gets us to October 6th. And we don't want to have the planning drawings approved so late that the information can't be incorporated into the other drawings. So we don't have much choice other than that July 2nd submission. And the Conservation Commission is the same thing. It's July 9th that we need to submit. So I don't know how if you need to look at the drawings before they go to
Well,
those commissions.
so we have a July 2nd meeting, if you wanted to give us some time, but for July 9 submissions, like, you're not gonna be done with those drawings much before July 2nd, I would
We
think.
don't have much before that, no.
You know, we're probably gonna be getting those in order to meet that schedule. You know, we're not gonna have the luxury of sitting on those drawings as a committee for 2 weeks to review them and do comment. I mean, we know what the site is. I don't imagine you're gonna put anything on these drawings that puts the building on the other end of the site or do anything, you know, drastic. So I think that would open for comment, but I think a July 2nd review of those drawings, ready for July 7, July 9 would work.
The other issue that I understand from Jane and that Ryan, the town engineer, is gonna be more involved in this phase, so he would be the liaison for planning as well as the town planner.
Good. Margaret,
Is there any additional complication because of pickleball timing that relates to the CPDC?
Well, the Conservation Commission asked that they be brought in together.
That's what I would guess.
Yeah, because it's a unified site, unified storm drainage and all that, so.
So yes,
It's not an added complication, but it's being done together.
okay, and so you've already incorporated that thinking.
You know, we had a coordination meeting today, but fortunately the pickleball contract had money left in it, so they didn't have to wait for this point. You know.
And then is that, are you presenting with someone from Activitas or whatever?
Yeah.
To different groups? Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yes.
Actually, it's me stepping back, but I noticed, that the plan, the first phase is designed together. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so, I guess my 2 questions are, what's included in design together? So what do you expect at the end of August what is the work audit that is gonna get done? That's you question. Last second.
Let's let Joel answer that. You're probably the best person to describe design development, certainly not me.
So the design development will run through the 17th of August, roughly. And the two weeks of that, 3 weeks of that is doing a cost estimate to make sure that we're still on the budget. So what we're aiming to do is to get the drawings far enough along by the 17th of July, where we can validate and update the cost estimate. So they submitted to the cost estimate of the 17th of July, and we can still keep working, advancing the drawings, but that's sort of a good benchmark. So that's deciding interior finishes, lighting, layouts. It's deciding, the finish, any other details of the rooms, cabinets, more detail than you have in the plan today. It's not a wholesale redo of the plan, because the footprint doesn't have enough room to move on that site. But, so we need to have some mechanism to have meetings every couple of weeks to go over these issues. And I think there's, so far I know there's one issue with adding a movable wall to the room, and so we have to talk about that.
All right, the second question was. So, you have these work groups and they're going to be, getting down into subject matter, making decisions about what could happen. Then what does this group do once a month? Are there, proposals brought forward saying we're gonna do this? Is it more just an update as to where the project is going and providing some advice perhaps or guidance? And then the other, and along with that, I'd like to know where this executive fits into the whole scheme of the meetings. I know that there's an executive committee that meets, who's on it, not sure what they do, but I would like to know more about that.
So I'll do my best to answer all those questions. So as far as the design pretty much is what it is. It's what was presented at town meeting and voted on. It's what was presented to the voters. The building is what the building is. My wife was telling me about people on Facebook talking about how now that it passed, we're gonna do a whole redesign of the building and and cut it in half and all this. That's not what we're doing. We have the building. As we expand some of the specific spaces, they'll move a little bit. There'll be there'll be changes as we go. Changes will be driven by the development of design. As we bake in the structure, we'll see that, we have to move a wall a little bit because it needs to be a bearing wall. As we bake in all the MEPs and ductwork, we'll see that what we had in mind for a ceiling here needs to change slightly. But by and large, the scope of the project, 30,000 square feet, commercial kitchen, the size of the fitness room, size of these spaces is not gonna drastically change. In my mind, there's three things that are open. One is that possibility of a modular petition. One is getting the energy study going, so we can solidify our decision of HVAC. And the third is less a design decision and more risk management, is doing more borings, because our current budget includes a lower value for our subsurface foundations, because we did a peer review and we think we can do less than what was in the original budget. But we need to do more borings and confirm that. As far as what this committee does, we're gonna be approving invoices on a monthly basis. We're gonna be getting an update on the budget. We're gonna be getting an update on the schedule. We're gonna be making decisions. There'll be a time, Joel's got a lot of work to do between now and July 2nd, but he may show up with some the pros and cons of a modular partition, divide us that space that we see as an open-ended item. Gary will chime in on some order of magnitude cost on that, some pros and cons, this is what you can or can't do, and we will make a decision if we move forward. We'll be making that paper decision. There'll be little decisions that are made along the way. Hey, we have to put a column here, we gotta move this door over 2 feet. It's in their purview, but as we get to big decisions, we'll make those. Hopefully there'll be plenty of meetings where we just approve some invoices, get an update, everything's working perfectly. Okay, move on. There might be other meetings we have to discuss some things. And we may not, we won't start off with we'll talk through and we'll find consensus. As far as the XLT meeting, I think the people in the XLT meeting are myself, Nancy, Jane, Matt, it'll be Mark and Joel or someone else from BH+A. Largely, we put together the agenda for this meeting. So we have a smaller group, it's not a forum, so we can figure out like what do we need to discuss, what should be in the packet. It's a first pass at what invoices. We didn't do an XLT meeting before this meeting, because we were I wanted to be a week ahead of Killam. But we would have reviewed the package and reviewed the agenda. Matt, Jane and I were on a call with Mark, right? And we just and Chuck and Peter, and we quickly went through, all right, this is the agenda, and Josh put it together. And somehow we got this thing on the secretary in there. I still don't know where that came from. We were voting, we were gonna vote on the secretary. But that's kind of a broad brush, what to expect, I think. If anyone has wants to expand on that, go for it. That answers your question.
Yeah, I just to see how all the groups fit together is important. If anyone on the committee, the PPC, wanted to, had a concern or an issue, is that something that the member of the committee would bring to you? And you might then bring it out until the next level to see if it's a genuine.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, you can't, you're like, hey, I want to talk about this at the next meeting. Just send me an email. Copy someone like Josh if you send me an email like that. I cover a little bit of ground, and I wouldn't put it past me to miss something. But if you send me something, I'll try to get back to you right away. And that's probably the best avenue because you can't, you instinctively, you want to just, hey, whole committee, send an email out to the whole committee and prompt an email discussion. But we can't do that, obviously, for obvious reasons. But yeah, that'd be the best way. And as far as, in my opinion, the design is what the design is. There'll be minor tweaks and changes that happen along the way. I don't foresee major changes to the program of what we're doing. And with that, there's only one entity that can make a change or recommend a change, and that's this committee as a whole, not one person. Me, not John, not you, not Mark, and say, hey, Joel, scrap the billiards room and something. Anything that goes beyond the minor change needs to go through the full committee, needs to be discussed as a committee. We need to understand the ramifications to cost and schedule and the long term. We only get one chance to do this, so we want to do it right. We want to go fast. I feel like we're in a good place to go fast and to get to a good position. We don't know what the bidding market and just the market in general holds, but something tells me sooner is better than later, from a cost perspective and also from some contractor procurement. standpoint. We're out at the beginning of the year. It's just a natural cycle in construction where the new year, both subcontractors and general contractors start to look at their backlog and realize they need to fill their backlog and start looking for work. And the more contractors and contractors we have bidding on this project, the more, qualified, competitive pricing we'll get better competitive pricing, we'll get better contractors, get better trades as well, so I think we're in a good place. And we only get one chance to do it, 50-year building, we gotta do it right, gotta take our time, but go fast at the same time.
I haven't seen what they reported on, but that could possibly generate changes to the whole thing.
Yeah, so I haven't been in the weeds on that. If Josh can correct me, Jane and Jenna were in the detail. They had a consultant go through the operations. There was some reporting out on that at town meeting as far as what they came up with for, because I felt like it was more an analysis of our program and analysis of revenues and costs. And I don't know how much of it was looking at what we do and making a ton of suggestions about offer these programs. And Josh, you probably know more than me.
I mean, I would just agree. It was sort of looking, I guess, internally at currently what we offer, revenues, potential revenues. It was preliminary, but I think going forward, continue to provide that information.
That probably, you're right, that'll probably provide some input. I would think that we would get more input, or the town would get more input on program than actual physical space. Of course, one follows the other, understood, but.
I made a suggestion about a man shed. Yeah, I just threw it out. That's it. Did anybody think that's a good idea or what?
Somewhat.
A man shed,
Oh.
like a she shed, but a man
Excellent
shed.
idea.
Everybody thought it was an excellent idea, but nothing happened about it. But it'll be surprising. Hey,
You should,
I thought the makerspace could be, I thought that there might be some opportunity for the makerspace to have that type of, I saw it as something maybe that programmatically could be done. Alright, where are we? Mark's got something to go.
So, there was a discussion of working groups. How will we be thinking about that?
Good question.
We threw it out there for discussion. For you all to figure out what you want to do. You want to spend some time with Joel discussing it. And if you'll allow us, we'll come back to you with the recommendation. That's okay.
Yeah, I think that would be a good topic for the July 2nd meeting. We had working groups. I don't think we need all the working groups we had in their exact form. Probably a good time to meet with them. Thank you.
Let us do that. Have a
Yeah.
One-on-one conversation with Joel, talk about it. And then Mark will be back and make a recommendation. Suggestion.
Good, thank you.
Let's just do, as we have two marks, which is unusual these days, it probably would be good to either add an initial or something to just verify. So that I thought you were there.
Yeah.
Yes, it's fine. We have two marks within our organization. We have 4 Matts within the organization.
We have 2 Nancy's and we haven't had a problem yet.
Yeah, I don't know. Quick question for Joel. Is that gonna give you enough time to get the working groups together before you move them? Because it doesn't sound like
I'll
it.
have to call Jane tomorrow morning.
Right, yeah, because I
How are
think,
we gonna make some of these decisions? Because
right,
she has a specific idea about, how she,
yeah,
I'm supposed to run it through her,
She and I spoke about it as well. and
Yeah.
You guys talked.
As did I.
okay.
But I think that we don't wanna wait till
We
Jan.
can't wait
July to
till
do
July
that.
2nd, so
Yeah.
just
We're gonna-
FYI, yeah.
We're gonna jump right on.
I think we'll have to handle that by email without group discussion. Yeah, well, we can make modifications at the July second meeting. That is, top priority, back to the request on budget. What are we missing? That's top priority question for you, Joel. What do you need us to know? What do you need to, like I said, in my mind, the three big things were the partition, the subsurface, and then the energy model.
The subsurface is in progress. I figured we'd get approval on it, we'd have them getting a contract and getting scheduled. The energy model, was gonna help make the decision, and the reason I put that into reimbursables is if we didn't know if the decision was gonna be made to go to passive house, then you don't need an energy model, you have a prescription of how to go, so.
Right.
I didn't want the town to pay for an energy model if we didn't need it, so that's why I put it below the line. But we can get that going, and then on the partition, we did work that through with the cost estimator, and I tell you what the budget is. It's a $65,000 to $75,000 ad. And the reason is, it's not just a partition. There's a beam that has to go in to carry the partition. But now all of a sudden you create two rooms, so now you have a separate heating system on this side and a separate one on that side. So you doubled up your heating and cooling systems. You have to change your light switchings because you have to have two rooms separately. So you add all these little things together and you're talking a fair amount of money. Out of the box. We can do it either way, the one thing I'm getting here all along is like, most of our clients think that if you add something to the product, oh, it's 22 million, and no one's gonna charge you for that. But it's just like going to the grocery store, you add an apple, they charge you for it. We have to really be difficult here because there's so much uncertainty in the cost environment.
Do you have an opinion of pros and cons from a design perspective of that? Just from your perspective, is it either way is fine, or do you see, challenges with the, either way?
I think either way is fine. I mean, I don't think there's a challenge to do it. It's more than just throwing a wall in the plan. It's a lot of work. And then, is it worth it? And do you need that room? There are a lot of program rooms. I think the other main decision is what floor does the fitness go on, because we have to design that for. If they're going upstairs, we have to change the design of that section. But none of these are insurmountable, it's just we have to make them, and then.
You didn't mention, but I think everybody, this one great. Is the entrance to the gym? Is there a segregation of that side of the building that can be closed so that it doesn't have full access to the rest of the building, so people could actually be using that entrance?
We had a lot of discussion about that. The main point of concern was to close off the senior lounge end of the building. It's possible to put closure at the lobby, so they can't, it isn't in there now, but it's easily put in. There are a couple ways to close off the gym at night if you wanted to.
Is that order of magnitude enough that we need to talk about it, or it's
not a big cost.
Okay, not a whole lot.
It's, it'll have the access controls or no.
Marilyn.
Thank you for letting me speak. And maybe this is clear to everybody else, and I understand all the things that are going on, all sounds wonderful, but because the program discussions are kind of off on their own, when we talk about, for example, that partition of the bigger room to make it have two, what we don't have right now are two smaller rooms that might be more conducive to smaller activities. I don't have a picture of what they're planning, and so it's hard to make the case that yes, this is valuable, or yeah, maybe not. We just don't know, because it's, we're kind of an island from all the, what program to do, they really envision running and when, and who will be doing what. So it feels to me like I'm and I'm not designing it obviously, but I'm designing something, not sure what I'm gonna put into it, which probably is true for a good amount of this, but I think it would just be more reassuring to know, have some insight into it. We haven't seen anything since it was just the original. So let's just take what we do now and put that there as a starting point. It's perfectly reasonable. But right now, we only serve about 1,500 of the 7,800 people. And what are they thinking about? And it won't be the whole 7,800, but it will be more. Every single site has said it will at least double. We just don't know what they're thinking about and how that connects to the discussion. Pardon me?
Who's the are you talking about
The operations group, yeah.
I can put on the agenda for the July 2nd meeting, an update on the operations study, and, an update from town staff on the operations side. I know Jane and Jenna had a staff meeting, that they, when the vote passed, to talk about a lot of things you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't doubt that it's happening. I don't question that it's good or bad. I'm just saying I haven't got a clue what it is. And so when we get to how important is it to have that divider, beats me. Do you have small group activities? Do you have to, it would be helpful to have insight, that's all.
Maybe we can get an update on that on July 2nd. So those three things I just heard, a modular partition, the fitness room being on what floor it's on, and then the doors to separate the building. When hard and fast, when do you need us to make decisions on that?
The
Can it wait till
doors,
July 2nd or not?
the doors we can make in construction bonds. What's on the first and second floor, sort of would like to know tomorrow, because the structural engineer is gonna start tomorrow, and they need to understand. If we have fitness on the second floor, it's a completely different design than if it's programmed on the second.
From a design and construction standpoint, I'd say, put the fitness room on the first floor. It's gonna be better. We do schools with gyms on the second floor. Gonna do one, not far from here. I've done other types of fitness rooms on an upper floor. But you can do anything, but it's more costly, and it's not as,
Doesn't perform it.
yeah.
One of the issues is we're also trying to build the senior center. We're trying to build a space to which seniors are going to go to. And a senior center is not a community center, so our idea for the fitness room going up on the second floor, that kind of that brings it up to the level where the rec department's offices are gonna be. And when you have, so one of the things that we're trying to create in this building, I believe we're trying to create, is a space that will replicate, even though this place is not ideal, there is a feeling. And we want to bring that feeling back to this new center. And so I think it's part of a bigger discussion than here tonight. I think there. Because by rearranging these rooms and just putting rooms here and here and there, it won't accomplish necessarily what we think we need to accomplish.
Well, we've done fitness on the second floor. I was just saying we didn't know.
One piece, I'm sorry, speaking of,
Sure, go ahead.
thank you. One piece of totally anecdotal information from the man shed notion. One of the men that's been involved in these discussions when we did talk about putting a fitness room upstairs next to the billiards room was that gives more of an area where more men are likely to flock. I don't personally agree that it'll be predominantly with men in that fitness room, but he looked at it and said in his brain, I see a space that I think I'm gonna find other guys, so maybe it's a little bit of your man shed, I don't know. For him, it sounds like it.
Maybe we could, maybe we could put them in on opposite floors, so it's not a middle school dance.
Well, there's that too.
The problem with fitness rooms is that people do rhythmics. You get the floor bouncing in rhythm with that, and that does weird things, noise wise, air pressure wise. That's why it's not good to have them on frame floors. It can be done, but it's different, it's more costly.
The fitness room is not intended to be an exercise. So the fitness room is going to have, so now, weight benches or, aerobic guys with trying to bicycle. I don't know.
The stuff you move every muscle
Yeah,
you didn't
Those are
even
tough
know you had.
on the second floor.
So I don't think we're prepared to make a decision tonight. I know that's not what you want to hear, Joel.
Well, there's a lot of discussion about the fitness room and equipment and the equipment it was decided not to be in the fitness room because there's no budget for phys ed equipment. We never have a big budget for phys ed equipment, if that was gonna be a big exercise room. And the discussion was to have 2 or 3 pieces of equipment. And there's no line item for that equipment in TTH budget. We should talk to Jen. I think these are all issues that
Design
we have Jim and
development.
Jenna.
I didn't know it was just 3.
I didn't either. There was some discussion, but I thought
I
we
mean,
decided.
no one
that was-
deleted it. It wasn't.
But anyway.
I think we need, I don't think we can make an informed decision on this topic without input from Jim and Jenna and Jane.
Chris.
Chris, thank you. And maybe there's a way we can do it before July 2nd.
Well, I need to do it. Jane's going on vacation, so let's try to do it this week.
Good.
We don't.
Okay. Figure out a way to do that. Okay. I think we're at the end. Anyone have any other comments? We just finished our future meeting schedule.
Will all meetings be held here in this location, just as we plan it out?
So that'll be the intent.
Okay.
We will, to the extent we can schedule, we may come in, we've run into conference, so,
Okay, unless otherwise noted, we'll meet here.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or go to the burger room at town hall, like we do.
Let's back up.
And typically in person and typically 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
With a Zoom option.
yeah, with the Zoom option. Sure.
Speaking of the design process going forward, I know at one time Marilyn and myself were on this design of representing council and aging. Are we still going to be included in that going forward?
I don't know what exactly the working groups are gonna look like, but council on aging, representatives from council on aging will be involved every step of the way.
Okay, I'd appreciate that because speaking of exercise, etc., there are certain suggestions that have been coming from this age bracket, which is very important going forward.
Okay. 7:58, just under 2 hours. Nancy?
My alarm didn't go on. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
John Coop,
Yes.
Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
Kirk McCormick,
Yes.
Greg Stepler.
Yes.
Yeah. Mark Doxer.
Yes.
Nancy Zimlock.
Yes.
Pat Tompkins, yes. Motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you.